The room fell completely silent, the kind of silence that feels heavy, uncomfortable, and impossible to ignore. Rows of engineers, managers, programmers, and tech experts stood frozen, their eyes glued to a massive, digital screen glowing at the front of the high-tech conference room. Complex lines, cables of code, blueprints so dense they looked like a maze. The company's most important project, an AI-powered security chip worth billions, was on the brink of failure. Victor Grayson, the CEO, stood in front of them like a king mocking his defeated army. His expensive suit shimmered under the conference lights, and his arms were folded tightly across his chest as if he were daring someone to challenge him, but no one did. Everyone in that room knew the truth. The chip kept overheating, crashing randomly and corrupting critical data. Months of work, all falling apart. The board members were furious, investors were panicking, and the company was about to announce a global launch in only 2 weeks. Victor let out a sarcastic sigh. "So," he said loudly, his voice bouncing off the glass walls, "no one can solve this." Dozens of employees looked down at their shoes. Some pretended to check their tablets. Others wiped sweat from their foreheads. Not a single person had an answer. Victor smirked cruelly. "Whoever solves this today gets $100 million. Gasps filled the room. But Victor wasn't being generous, he was mocking them. Everyone knew it. His tone said it all. "None of you are capable. You're wasting my time." He tapped the digital screen. "This problem," he said slowly, "is beyond your pay grade." A wave of shame washed across the room. Shoulders sank, eyes dropped, hope evaporated. But near the very back, where no one ever paid attention, stood someone who wasn't even supposed to be in the meeting. A young man in faded jeans, worn-out sneakers, and a simple grey hoodie. He was holding a mop. His name was Arham, the son of the company's maid, Zara. Every evening, while his mother cleaned the offices, he helped her finish faster by mopping the floors and cleaning the hallways. Most employees never noticed him. Some walked past him without even looking. Others treated him like part of the furniture. But today, he was staring at the screen with a strange intensity. The blueprint didn't confuse him. The code didn't scare him. The problem didn't look impossible. If anything, it looked familiar. Victor caught him staring and frowned. "What?" he snapped. "You think you can fix this?" A ripple of laughter spread through the room. Engineers elbowed each other. A few whispered, "The janitor's boy? Seriously?" But Arham simply met Victor's eyes without blinking. "Maybe," he said calmly. The laughter died instantly. Something about his voice, the quiet confidence, the lack of fear, it made the entire room shift. Victor's smirk faded. People straightened. Whispers stopped. For the first time since the meeting began, things felt unpredictable. And suddenly, the room didn't feel so safe anymore. Arham had been coming with his mother to her cleaning job since he was 10 years old. While other kids spent evenings watching cartoons or playing games, Arham spent his in the quiet corridors of Grayson Tech, surrounded not by toys, but by machines, wires, and glowing screens. His mother, Zara, worked long, exhausting hours, sometimes until midnight, sometimes double shifts. And because she couldn't afford to leave him alone at home, Arham would sit in the cafeteria or lobby with his small backpack, waiting patiently for her to finish. But he was never bored. While his mother scrubbed floors, wiped desks, and polished windows, Arham explored the world in his own way. He solved puzzle books until the pages tore. He tinkered with old circuits he found in discarded boxes. He watched through glass walls as engineers brainstormed, debated, and built things he didn't fully understand. At least, not at first. To everyone else, he was invisible. But to himself, he was learning. Every night was a classroom. Every piece of thrown-away hardware was a lesson. Every overheard conversation was a lecture. What no one knew, because no one ever bothered to ask, was that Arham was a self-taught prodigy. He couldn't afford university. He couldn't afford fancy tools. He couldn't afford the life others took for granted. But he didn't need any of that. He devoured free online courses, watched hours of engineering lectures on old cracked phones, downloaded open source code and studied it line by line, collected abandoned engineering manuals from recycling bins and read them like sacred texts. Knowledge was his currency. Innovation was his language. And that day, when he stood in the back of the conference room holding a mop, he didn't see confusion. He didn't see chaos. He didn't even see a billion-dollar disaster. He saw a mistake, a simple structural flaw. As he stared at the blueprint glowing on the massive screen, the answer clicked instantly in his mind, like a puzzle piece snapping into place. "It's not a software problem," he said. His voice was soft but firm, cutting through the tension like a blade. Victor Grayson slowly turned his head, raising an eyebrow with a mix of curiosity and irritation. "Oh," he said mockingly. "Then what is it?" Aham didn't flinch. "The architecture," he replied confidently. "The heat distribution pathways are reversed. Your chip is suffocating itself." For a moment, no one moved. Then the engineers, men with degrees from top universities, experts paid hundreds of thousands, began scanning the blueprint again. Their eyes widened. He was right. Not maybe right, not partially right, completely, undeniably right. The room filled with stunned whispers. Victor's jaw tightened. He wasn't used to being corrected, especially not by a janitor's son, especially not by someone holding a mop. "Fine," Victor snapped, trying to sound unimpressed. "If you think you're so smart, come fix it." Every eye in the room shifted to Aham. Would he back down? Would he get scared? Would he apologize? No. Aham simply nodded, set the mop aside, and walked forward without the slightest hesitation. For the first time, the company would see who he truly was. Aham stepped forward toward the main workstation, the room parting for him like a tide of disbelief. No one tried to stop him, except the one person who feared for him more than anyone else. His mother. Zara rushed forward, her cleaning gloves still on, her voice trembling. "Aram, Beta, don't," she whispered urgently, grabbing his arm. "These are powerful people. They don't like being challenged. You'll get in trouble." Her eyes were filled with fear, the fear of someone who had spent her entire life being careful, invisible, silent. But Aram, he wasn't afraid. He placed a gentle hand on hers. "Ami," he said softly, his voice warm and steady. "You've spent your whole life cleaning after them. Let me do something for you." Zara froze. Those words, they cracked something inside her. For years she had taken insults, late-night shifts, and endless exhaustion so her son wouldn't suffer like she did. Now her son was standing in a room full of people who never even learned her name, standing tall, unshaken and brilliant. She stepped back, tears gathering in her eyes, but pride glowing through every drop. Aram turned to the workstation. The engineers hovered behind him, whispering urgently. Is he serious? Should someone stop him? What if he breaks something? But when his fingers touched the keyboard, their whispers died. He typed with the confidence of someone who understood the system better than the people who built it. Lines of code flashed across the screen, clean, precise, purposeful. In 6 minutes, he completely redesigned the thermal routing system, mapping heat channels the way a seasoned master rewrites a masterpiece. In 10 minutes, he optimized the airflow algorithm, eliminating wasteful loops and rerouting cooling cycles like a surgeon repairing a delicate artery. By 12 minutes, he recalibrated the emergency shutdown function, creating a self-stabilizing mechanism no one in that room had ever even considered. The room was silent, except for the rapid clicking of keys, clicks that sounded like the turning of fate itself. Victor Grayson watched him with growing disbelief. The smugness had drained from his face. Sweat glistened on his forehead. His eyes darted between the screen and the boy who moments ago was holding a mop. When Aram finally finished, he took a breath and hit enter. Everyone leaned forward. The simulation loaded. The digital chip lit up in a vibrant glow. Graph lines leveled smoothly. Heat levels dropped to safe ranges. The temperature stabilized perfectly. Then the data stream flashed. No errors detected. One by one, every panel on the testing interface turned green. The room exploded. He did it! No way, that's impossible. "Who is this kid? This is genius-level work." Some engineers clapped. Others simply stared at the screen, their mouths hanging open. But Victor turned pale. He had mocked Arham, dismissed him, laughed in his face. And now the boy he underestimated had saved the company from losing $2 billion and a global scandal. Arham stood up calmly, brushing dust from his hoodie. He looked Victor dead in the eyes. "You owe me $100 million. The CEO swallowed hard, his arrogance collapsing in on itself. For the first time in a long time, Victor Grayson had no words. Victor's forced smile looked more like a crack in his confidence than an expression of control. His lips twitched, and his jaw tightened beneath the pressure of 100 watching eyes. "You did well," he said slowly, trying to sound casual. "But I was joking. Obviously no one just gives $100 million. A ripple went through the room. The energy shifted again, this time not from disbelief, but disappointment. Engineers exchanged glances. Managers looked away. Everyone had heard the CEO loud and clear when he made the promise. Now he was pretending he hadn't. But Arham didn't argue. He didn't shout. He didn't defend himself. He simply unplugged the workstation, pulled out the hard key, and began walking toward the exit with calm footsteps. That terrified Victor more than anything. "Where do you think you're going?" he barked, the fake smile instantly collapsing. Arham paused halfway to the door and turned his head slightly. "I fixed your chip," he said evenly, "by designing a completely new cooling protocol." Victor blinked. Arham continued, "But I didn't save the final version to your servers. Everything is still running on the simulation file. Without my code, you're back to square one." Gasps rippled across the room like shockwaves. A few engineers rushed to the workstation, frantically opening the file tree. Panic spread when they realized Arham was telling the truth. The final version wasn't saved. Victor lunged forward, panic overriding his pride. Wait, you can't just leave." Arham turned fully now, meeting Victor's eyes calmly, almost gently. "I don't want your money," he said. That confused everyone. Even Victor blinked in surprise. "If not money, then what?" "Then what do you want?" the CEO demanded. Arham didn't hesitate. "A job." Victor relaxed slightly, but only until Arham finished. "And not as an intern," Arham added. "Make me the lead innovation engineer." The room froze. You could feel the disbelief in the air. A maid's son, someone who mopped the floors, was asking for one of the highest, most respected positions in the entire company. Some people stared in shock. Others whispered. A few actually admired him. Victor's face twitched. "You want that position?" he asked, sounding almost insulted. Arham simply nodded, unbothered. Victor opened his mouth to refuse. But then he heard something that made his blood run cold. The board members behind him were whispering urgently. He fixed it in minutes. "That solution is revolutionary. Hire him before another company finds out. We can't afford to lose a mind like this." Victor's pride battled with reality. Arham had saved them billions. Arham had done what his top engineers couldn't, and Arham held the only working version of the fix. Victor had no choice. Finally, voice tight and teeth clenched, he said, "You start today." A slow, satisfied smile spread across Arham's face. Not arrogant, not vengeful, just proud. Because for the first time in his life, he wasn't being looked at as a cleaner's son. He was being recognized as a genius. Arham walked back toward his mother, who still stood frozen beside her cleaning cart, unable to move or even blink. The mop in her hand trembled. For years she had quietly existed in these hallways, unseen, unheard, unnoticed. But today, the entire company had watched her son do the impossible. "Ami," Arham said softly. She looked up, her heart pounding. "I got the job." For a moment, Zara didn't breathe. Then her hands flew to her mouth, and tears spilled down her cheeks faster than she could wipe them away. It wasn't just happiness. It was a lifetime of struggle cracking open. "I am so proud of you," she whispered, her voice breaking. Arham hugged her gently. People who had never acknowledged her existence were now watching her with shock and respect. She wasn't just the cleaning lady anymore. She was the mother of the company's brightest mind. Within hours, news spread through the entire building. Within days, it reached every tech hub in the country. Within weeks, it went global. The Maid's son who solved $1 billion problem. Self-taught genius rescues tech giant. Prodigy emerges from the unlikeliest place. Arham's story became a sensation. Interviews, articles, invitations. Everyone wanted to meet the young man who had rewritten the rules. But Arham didn't let the fame touch him. Despite being promoted to lead innovation engineer, he still walked into the building each morning greeting the janitors, security guards and cafeteria workers with a warm smile. These were people who understood struggle, people like him. He still helped his mother with chores whenever. She let him, which wasn't often now, because the company insisted she retire with full benefits. But she still cleaned sometimes anyway, out of habit. And Arham still dried the dishes beside her like old times. And even though his desk was now surrounded by advanced technology and high-level engineers, Arham worked with the hunger of someone who had once stood in the shadows. Months passed. The redesigned AI security chip launched successfully. Sales shattered records. The company's profits skyrocketed beyond projections. One morning, Victor summoned Arham to his office. The same office where the CEO once smirked at him. The same office where he doubted him. The same office where he nearly walked out. But this time, Victor stood up as Arham entered. "You saved my company," he said, sincerity softening his voice. "I owe you more than a job." He opened a drawer and handed Arham an envelope. Inside was a check, not for $100 million, but for $20 million in stock grants. It made Arham one of the youngest shareholders in the company's history. But Arham didn't smile for himself. He smiled for the woman waiting outside the office. He walked straight to his mother and placed the check in her hands. "This," he said softly, "is for every night you worked alone so I could dream." Zara wept. Not from surprise, she always believed in him, but from the joy of seeing her sacrifices bloom. That day the world didn't just witness a genius, it witnessed a truth. Talent has no title, brilliance has no class, and heroes can rise from anywhere, even from a janitor's cart and a mother's tired hands.